FU PLC from December 2014 till December 2020. Bunge Limited from January 2018 till May 2021, and GAIN, which is Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, a Swiss foundation based in Geneva from July 2010 to December 2018, and was the chair from January 2015 to December 2018. In India, Vinita currently serves as a non-executive director on the boards of CRISIL Limited and Syngene International Limited, and chairs the CI National Committee on Nutrition. She was also on the board of Titan Company Limited from October 2006 till March 2018, and a member of the Board of Governors of the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, from November 2014 till December 2022. Vinita was among the 27 global leaders appointed by the UN in 2012 to help improve maternal and child health as part of its SUN, Scaling Up Nutrition Initiative, and completed her term in 2016. She has been recognized in forums nationally and internationally and won several awards for various contributions to business and society. She has an undergraduate degree in economics from the University of Delhi and a master's in management from the University of Bombay. She also pursued her postgraduate studies in international business from Michigan State University. On behalf of AIMA and CMA, please put your hands together and give her a very warm welcome to Ms. Vinita Bali. So, Vinita doesn't want to do a spiel. She says it's better to do a one-on-one conversation. She says she's been on the other side many, many years back, and she wouldn't like someone sitting here, especially after a post-lunch session, and giving a bhashan. So I think I've got the arduous task of asking her questions, and we'll have a little bit of a kind of a tete-a-tete between us, and then we'll open up questions to the panelists on the floor. And then, ladies and gentlemen, please keep your questions ready. I hope we'll have time to ask you all to ask her some of the questions. The idea is to take this opportunity this afternoon to kind of gain as much insights to what her journey has been, because she too, at one point in her life, sat like you in a classroom, had dreams, thought of her career, thought of her aspirations, thought of what life would be, and I think it's very, very nice that she's here today to share those experiences. So Vinita, coming back to you, I see a lot of young ladies sitting in the audience, and at a time that you entered the corporate world in India and the world, breaking the glass ceiling would have been quite a tough time because it was so male-dominated. What did you do? How was it when you joined industry? Did you find these kind of challenges at that point in time? And today, seeing so many women entering the corporate world, what is your advice to them? How do they manage these challenges?
Thank you very much, first of all. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay. Okay, so that's many questions rolled in one. So I'm dating myself, of course. I started working in 1977, actually 1980, because then I took a break and I went and pursued my studies. So when I joined Cadbury's, I was the first ever executive to join Cadbury's who was not a man. You know, the biggest challenge for the HR people was, you know, which bathroom do I use? Because at that time, you had, you know, restrooms for men, which were divided into managers and other staff. But for women, there was only one restroom. I say this a little bit, you know, in jest, basically really to say that, you know, it wasn't, in my batch, for example, when I did my MBA, there was 10% women and the rest were men. The same was true of the IIMs and so on. Things have changed, but from my point of view, not enough. You know, we're talking about 26 to 30% is the ratio of women in management institutes. I'm associated with a lot of companies. The IT companies seem to be doing the best, but even there, we've got a 30% ratio of women to men. So the good news is things are changing. The better news is that all of us can be part of the change. So you asked me a question in terms of, you know, how do you deal with this? The only way I know how to deal with anything is that, you know, your work has to speak for itself, so your gender becomes irrelevant. I think the whole debate on gender has to give way to a debate on competency.
Correct.
And the reason I say that is that, whoever you are, whether you are an IT professional, an academic, a doctor, or whoever, what matters when you walk in through that door is your track record, your academic credentials, your attitude, your leadership skills, your attributes. All of those things matter. Gender actually doesn't come into the equation, and somehow the narrative has got so overtaken by gender that we tend to overlook the competency part of it and give too much emphasis to gender. Now, I know we've just gone to Chandrayaan and, suddenly we are hearing about all the women in ISRO. And my question is, why didn't we hear about these women earlier? So there are opportunities, there are pockets. I think all of us, if you desire to be a professional, there should be nothing to stop you from being the professional that you want to be. I understand that the ecosystem plays a big role, your families play a big role, where you work plays a big role, people you work with play a big role, but I think the biggest role is played by us as individuals. And here I'm talking to the men as well as to the women, because that ecosystem has to be an inclusive ecosystem. It can't be favoring women, neither can it be favoring men. So I think if we in our own way are determined, if we change the narrative, if we allow our work to speak for itself and not anything else, only then we will see a big shift and change.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very insightful. Vinita, most of these kids sitting here today, in a couple of months, will be looking at campus placements. And often when I'm at campus teaching, there's always this debate between getting a job or do I look at a career? And I think it's very important for people to look at a career because there's so many opportunities and not hop from job to job. So my question to you is, what is your advice for these young students? How do you, at this point in your life, start building the blocks for a very, very successful career vis-a-vis jumping from a job to job? Is there a difference, or do you think that happens naturally, or can it be planned? And your experience in that, how did you build your career and become so successful?
I think this is the old-fashioned way of thinking, which is you work hard at whatever you decide to do, you excel, and that's how you grow in an organization. And I know we make a distinction between jobs and careers, but at the end of the day, I really think what is important is to do something that you really like to do. Because if you are chasing a job, if you're chasing, big remuneration and so on, but your heart is not in the work that you're doing, your mind is not fully engaged, then in my experience and in my opinion, you can't excel, you can't do a great job of what you're doing. And you've got to distinguish yourself by letting your work talk for itself, and also how you conduct yourself. That's equally important. But this whole thing between a job and a career actually becomes a little bit irrelevant. Because when you say, I am going to pursue what I enjoy doing, what I like to do, and if I excel in it, and you're open to opportunities, I had not imagined the kind of career I ended up having when I started working. In fact, I wanted to join the Indian Foreign Service because I wanted to travel around the world. And, a cousin of mine came after I'd got admission for my MBA and said, why don't you do an MBA and you can sit for the Foreign Service exam after that? So that's how I got into an MBA. And what happens, before you've graduated, you've got a job. And so, off went the Foreign Service, and I joined industry. And, then I moved countries, I moved continents. I didn't move that many jobs. I had 3 long stints in 3 very iconic companies. And like I tell everybody, I've sold everything that is brown and sweet. From chocolates to Coke to biscuits. But I really think that don't think about your designation or your title or your money. All that will follow. That is a consequence of your work. It is not the driver of what you do.
Wonderful. So you said you wanted to travel the world, and I can see that you have traveled the world. I mean, you've practically left no continent apart. I think it's important for you to share some experience of what has been the interesting facets of working in different countries in terms of culture vis-a-vis working. I mean, you ended up working in India, but you came with that global experience. What were the pros, what were the cons? If people get these opportunities, what to look for as they move to different countries, different markets, different cultures?
I think all of you live in, at a wonderful time when the world is almost fungible. There are so many people working outside of their home countries, whether it is India, whether it is Africa, whatever it is. When I first went abroad, that was to work, was in 1984. There were very few people, and especially in marketing, who went outside of India to work. And my first job overseas was Cadbury's, and then subsequently I worked for Coca-Cola. With Cadbury's, I worked in the UK, I went to Nigeria, I went to South Africa. Then with Coke, I was in Atlanta, then I moved to Santiago in Chile. So I literally lived in the Southern Hemisphere twice, and across, 5 continents. I think the biggest thing that working outside of your comfort zone does is that it really challenges what I would call your adaptive skills. You cannot be successful in another culture or another environment unless you are empathetic towards that culture and that environment. And there are little things that make a big difference. So, for example, when I worked in Nigeria, and the US is in many ways very transactional. You want to get some information, you pick up the phone, or now you send a message and you say, I'd like to get updated on whatever it is. So I went to Nigeria after I had worked in the UK, and I was the director of marketing and sales. So on Monday morning, I would pick up the phone and ask my general manager sales what the numbers were like. And I was told that you don't do that in Nigeria. You have to ask about how's the family, how's the weekend, how's the cat, how's the cow, how's the everything, and then get to. And these are little differences. When I went to work in Santiago in Chile, I was attempting to learn Spanish. There was a very, very dear colleague of mine who I was taking over from, who was leaving. And I took the trouble to actually speak in Spanish at the farewell. And I got more acceptance by that one gesture, because people really felt that I was trying hard, or I was giving it a good shot to actually become as local as a foreigner can possibly become. So I think living outside of your comfort zone, if you're a person who is curious, is fantastic. Because, what I learned was not about doing better business. What I learned was different cultures, different histories, different geographies, different ways of living, the opportunity to explore the world. And I think all of those things actually end up enriching you. So it's not just, attention to work, because, the more enriched your life is, the greater is the contribution that you can make. So I would say take any opportunity that comes your way, which makes sense for you. And the other point I want to add is that just because someone else has done it doesn't make it right for you. We are all temperamentally very different. My temperament is to explore, I have a sense of adventure, I like to do different things. But if you're not that kind of person, then what I did, for example, may not work for you. You have to choose what works for you temperamentally. You have to choose what gives you joy. You have to decide where you want to spend your time. And once you're clear on that, then, like somebody said, pick up something that you like to do and you will not have to work a single day in your life. And I think that's, if somehow we can get to that, that's great.
That's great. So you officially hung up your corporate boots in April 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I have not. I've only hung up my operational
boots. So
I'm still very involved.
Yeah, so therefore the question is very relevant to that. What keeps you motivated and driven? What is, and what perhaps will be? So, and thoughts for, lessons in life too. This whole drive, and you're still doing it, and you'll continue to do it. So what has been that one thought, two thoughts that kept you going for all these years?
So the decision to leave the corporate world, I mean, I worked till I was 58, and, 58 was the retirement age, and, I wanted to do other things. I had already, when I was in my full-time role in Britannia, I was already an independent director on several boards in India as well as overseas. I was already doing work with the UN on nutrition. I was chairing the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. And what I realized was that there is so much out there to learn. I'd been a corporate executive for 38, 39 years. And yes, it was exciting to see the numbers at the end of every quarter. But that also becomes a routine. You have your analyst calls, you present to your board, you do your town hall. And it was great. I enjoyed every moment of it. And I would do it again. But I would also leave when I did. Because what I realized was that there is a vast world out there. I was interested in other domains, and that is why my choice of boards was not to take on, an FMCG board, but to learn about domains I didn't know anything about. So it was, connected. So it was Syngenta, it was Bunge. I'm currently on the board of Cognizant because I wanted to learn about technology. And the thing with boards is it's not a hobby. It is a serious commitment, if you want to really learn about the business. And I think boards benefit from the experience of, individuals who've run companies in other domains. So it works very well for both the full-time executives as well as the non-executive board members. So for me, it was really an evolution into the next stage of what I wanted to do. And, the way I think about it is, when you're working for one company or in one business, then it's like, if to use an analogy from photography, it's like a zoom lens and you're looking very closely and very critically at that one area. But what I'm doing now is, taking a wide-angle lens and seeing a bigger landscape, seeing more opportunities, more points of connection, and therefore, different ways of contributing, but a lot of different areas to contribute.
Wonderful. I think that brings us to the close of our 20 minutes, and we have 8 very, very young, smart panelists who have 8 questions for you. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll open it up to the panelists on the stage. So they'll have more questions for you. So who's the first one? Who goes first? Sorry? Okay, please. I think you please take a mic there and you all pass it down. Please introduce yourself and then ask. Keep your question short and to the point.
Hello. You can take.
Yes. Hello. Myself Sagar Das. I from Institute of Engineering and Management. Thank you for giving me this, sharing your experience. And this session is much more inspirational for us. And as you are the member of the SU and as a nutrition, you providing maternity and child health improvement. So, ma'am, my question is basically that how the government should take initiative for the nutrition for betterment of an individual to the peoples and how it is work, ma'am.
So the government already has several schemes and programs which address nutrition. So in theory or conceptually, we've got a good infrastructure for nutrition. Ironically, it hasn't delivered the kind of results it ought to have delivered if everything was being executed the way it's supposed to. So very quickly, I'm sure all of you know, there is the ICDS scheme, which operates through 1.4 million Anganwadi centers, looking at the needs of 0 to 6 years for children and pregnant and nursing women. Yes. There is the midday meal scheme that feeds 120 million school children. There is the public distribution scheme, but that's essentially, as I see it, it assuages hunger. It doesn't do that much for nutrition. Though there are some nutrition initiatives embedded in that. For example, the micronutrient fortification of rice, which goes through the public distribution system that caters to about 800 million people. So there are those government schemes. I think people sitting in this auditorium know enough. You are responsible for yourself. There's a lot of information available on nutrition. There are some initiatives that are underway right now through the CII National Committee of Nutrition together with the UNICEF. And one such initiative is workplace nutrition. So which is providing healthy alternatives to your workforce. But more than that, actually educating your employees on what are good nutrition habits. So there is a long way, unfortunately, we still have to travel when it comes to nutrition. But I think if each one of us makes ourselves responsible for our own nutrition, and then, wherever you have the opportunity to work on programs and make sure that some of those which are already structurally in place are better executed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, sure.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Monisha Ganguly. I am from IIM Institute of Engineering and Management. You have recognized, hello?
Yeah.
You have recognized at several national and international FONAP and also won awards for your various contribution to business and society. My question is to you, how important do you think are awards and recognition in one's life?
Sorry, how important?
How important do you think are awards and recognitions in one's life?
Well, they make you feel good, at least temporarily. I think rewards and recognition, if it comes your way, it's great. But that's the way I feel. I mean, you don't work to get a reward. You do good work and, that's recognized and then you get a reward. And I said, it makes you feel good, at least temporarily, but, then it becomes part of what you've accomplished.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Pass the mic down next.
Very good afternoon, madam. First of all, thank you so much for sharing all that wonderful information with us. I'm Rajesh Gupta from Future Institute of Engineering and Management, Kolkata. And my question is, as most of us are already aware of the fact that under your direction in Britannia, the company almost tripled in revenue, which is a great phenomenon. So my question is what were the strategies you had taken, and also what was the role of the competitors during that times?
Well, the role of the competitors is always to keep you on your feet, which we recognized and we did. From a strategic point of view, it's actually, the world of fast-moving consumer goods is quite simple. I can say that all of us want to sell more to more people more often at more margin. So it's actually the little things that make the big difference. So it's not some huge, big strategy that, of course, we took some initiatives on saying, how can we actually put better nutrition into biscuits? Britannia was the first one to start micronutrient fortification. We created public-private partnerships. This is long before CSR and ESG were even mandated. We worked with people like Akshay Patra and the Nandi Foundation to supplement the midday meal that was being given with specially formulated biscuits. And actually, our study partner in the initial stages was the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, their community health thing, where we worked with the pediatricians there and so on to say, okay, how much iron? One of the things we wanted to look at was, reduce significantly iron deficiency anemia. And biscuit is a great carrier for micronutrients, and our, our inspiration in a way came from the World Food Program, where WFP, whenever there is a calamity or a natural disaster, one of the things that they have is that they drop these calorie-dense and nutrition-dense biscuits. And the reason for that is quite simple. You open a packet and you can eat it. You don't have to cook it. You don't have to go looking for water. So that was our inspiration, and those are some of the things we did. Then we also specially formulated some biscuits for diabetics with a low glycemic index. So strategy in all cases is nothing but the ability to convert consumer insight into a commercial proposition from a business point of view. And, then it's the hard work of every day. You've got to make sure that, you're available, your packages are right, your prices are right, and, that's true of everything.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. First of all, thank you so much for giving us your precious time. You are leader for us. My name is Ritipriya Bandopadhyay. I'm from Institute of Engineering and Management. As I said before, you are leader for us. My question is, what is that one quality you think a leader should have to pose to be successful?
Just be yourself. I think authenticity is the quality, I would say. I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, be yourself because everybody else is already taken. And the reason I say this is none of us need to emulate anybody else. We can be inspired by other people. We can be, motivated by what they do. But I think one essential quality of leadership is really to be true to yourself. And, once that happens, then that is what gets you to do your best work. It's not about being a rah-rah leader. It's not about being the best debater. It is not even about, getting the highest marks. But I do think leadership is about authenticity. And equally importantly, I feel leadership is about taking ownership and responsibility for your actions and the results of your actions. And, I will take this opportunity to make a distinction between leaders and leadership. Leadership is a verb. It is behavior. It is what you do. It's not what you say. It's not what you promise. It's what you deliver. And I think, irrespective of where you are in the hierarchy of an organization, you can demonstrate leadership qualities. As a management trainee, I can demonstrate more leadership qualities than perhaps some leaders with, big titles like vice president or president or chairman demonstrate. So it is about what you do. It is about how you do what you do. And I think it is about the genuineness and authenticity with which you do what you do.
Good afternoon, ma'am. First of all, thank you for sharing your journey with us. Ma'am, I'm Vinita Bali from Future Institute of Engineering and Management. My question is, if you could go back in time, is there anything you could have changed or could have done differently throughout your business journey?
No, throughout my business journey, no. I think, you do the best that is possible with the information you have available at that stage. Now, in hindsight, some mistakes you have made or other things look like, you shouldn't have done those. I think it's important to debrief both your success as well as your failure and learn from both of those. But from a business point of view, you go in there and, as I said, with the information available at that time, you try your best to make the best decision. Of course, you learn in hindsight. And of course, those learnings in hindsight should actually be an input into what you do differently going forward. But not from a business point of view.
First of all, thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable time. Myself, Shadin Dotto, from Institute of Engineering and Management, Kolkata. So, ma'am, my question is to you that as you have worked with some leading FMCG companies around the world, so what advice or suggestions you want to give to someone, as fresher, who wants to make their career into FMCG?
My only advice is, if that's what you want to do, go in there and play your best game. There's really no other advice that I can give. There are no secrets of success. Frankly, I think the only secret of success is, doing with energy and, with the best spirit, what you're capable of doing every day. And, that is what creates success. There is no one mantra that, unfortunately, I can give to you or anybody else. The only thing I can say is, do what you like to do, enjoy your work, and that is how you will give it your best. And if you give it your best, then, success will follow. So don't chase success. Let success be the outcome of what you do, not the purpose for doing what you do. And I think that's very important. And don't be dejected by failure. We've all had failure. We've all had failure. I mean, the number of new products I've launched that have not been successful, I don't take it as my personal failure. I take it as a learning. And if I've learned from that and if I've done things differently, that's great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. First of all, thank you for giving us your valuable time. And my name is Joita Jana. I am from Future Institute, Kolkata. My question is how you face difficulties in your initial stage in your career?
Face, or how did you overcome those difficulties?
Overcome or face?
With an example or something, if you can share.
Frankly, when you ask me about difficult, I can't think of a difficulty I faced, in my career. Now, either I was very lucky or too naive, but, I don't know what you call a difficulty in your career. There are personal challenges. For example, I decided to come back to India after 18 years of working overseas because of personal reasons. My mother had a stroke, and I flew down from Atlanta to see her. And on the way back, I decided that I was going to move back to India because I wanted to spend time with my parents. That was a personal challenge. I made the choice, and I have no regrets about the choice I made. But in my career, were there any difficulties? I can't think of any, honestly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Nobonita Modok, and I am from Future Institute of Engineering and Management. My question is, what is your passionate about and interest in other things outside of work?
Nice. That's a good question because, we can't only be talking about work. Right now, apart from being on boards and doing some work in the area of nutrition, one thing that I have been very passionate about is the performing arts, which includes classical music, dancing, theater, and so on. So I do spend my time doing some pro bono work for artists or art institutions, and I enjoy those greatly. I was a student of classical music and dance, but, all of us do that, and we give it up for a variety of reasons, primarily because we are pursuing a professional career that makes it difficult. Because if you want to be a good artist, then it can't be a hobby. Then it has to be more of a full-time commitment. But I'm very passionate about the performing arts, and I do think that I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. We keep talking about people who are, depressed or, not as happy as they should be. Mental issues is a big one. And I'm saying, if only we exposed ourselves to the joy of the performing arts. You know, you go to whatever you like, if it's a film, if it's a play, if it's classical music, folk music, puppetry, etc. You know, when you see a great work of art, it uplifts you, it rejuvenates you. And I think, you know, one way I have always found to uplift myself is to listen to a good piece of music, watch a concert, see a good play, and you know, it's great. For me, it's worked brilliantly.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think that's a very, very important point, because there's a saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And it's very important to have a passion in life. And Vinita, often when I meet young students on their CV, I find when they talk about extracurricular hobbies, reading, listening to music. And I want to tell these young kids, and if you'll agree with me, a hobby is something you passionately pursue. If you like arts, if you're into classical music, you have to keep, not I heard classical music when I was 15 years old. I read a book in class 12, sir, but I've not had time after that. And therefore you must have that. So do you agree with that?
No, I completely agree with that. I actually feel that, you know, to actually be well-rounded, I think one has to have interests outside of whatever career choice you make. Now, you know, some careers are very, very demanding. But even then, you know, almost everybody I know, you know, who's done well in what they've done, you know, have not only single-mindedly pursued one thing. You know, they're interested in a variety of things. And if you're interested in a variety of things, you do find time to do that. I feel I'm far more productive if I take a break and just, you know, walk for 15 minutes listening to music as I'm walking. I can come back and I'm a lot more focused than if I were to sit in front of my computer trying to figure out something on my own. So, and you know, whatever works for you. If I used to be fairly active. I mean, I was a tennis player. Before that, I played squash and racquetball. So I think it's good to involve yourself or engage yourself mentally and physically, you know, in some activity that charges you, it rejuvenates you, it refreshes you, and I think that's very important.
So we've done well with time, and I think we have around 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to open up the questions to the audience. So can we have some hands up so we can, yes, the gentleman right here in front. Please introduce yourself and address your question.
Actually, these lights are completely blinding.
Yeah.
We can't see anything.
Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. It's an honor and privilege talking to you. I am Akash Bhattacharya, and my question to you is how to reach the state of self-actualization, or what should be the proper definition of self-fulfillment?
What should be the definition
Definition of self-fulfillment.
Self-fulfillment. Just be happy every day. Do something you like to do, and don't worry about anything else.
Next question. Yes, the gentleman right here. Right down.
There's a hand here.
Oh,
in the third row.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry, I couldn't see, the lights were blinding.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon to everyone sitting in the panel and to the audience as well. My name is Shweta Singh, representing Institute of Engineering and Management, Kolkata. So we have talked about women empowerment, and since you are working from 1980s, probably you have gone through some stereotypical comments that would have act barrier. And I think, yes, things are changing right now, but still we have people who have narrow mind, and they try to pull us back, and these comments act as a barrier, because I have faced a lot of comments, and I'm sure many women sitting in the audience have faced as well. So how did you deal with those, and how would you suggest to all the women sitting over here to deal with those comments which really pull us back and pull us our motivation, demotivates us and pull us back?
You know, you've raised a very important point, and, you know, I wish I could give you a very rosy answer. The fact still is that it is an unequal world, and I don't want to, you know, just imagine that we're living in this wonderful world. In fact, a very depressing statistic from the World Economic Forum was around the world, if we continue the way we are continuing, then it'll take 160 years to get gender parity. Now, you know, keep that on one side. We've got to live our lives, you know, with dignity. We've got to live our lives, you know, the way, with respect. And I think demanding and commanding that respect, to a large extent, is dependent on us, but also is dependent on the society around us. And I am glad that this is a mixed audience, and the message I want to leave with everybody here is young men and young women. You know, men need to respect women. You know, whether those women are your sisters, your mom, your spouse, anybody else in the family. And I think out of that, you know, mutual respect, you know, grows a certain way of behavior. Now, it could be utopian on my part to imagine and say everybody is going to behave really well. I think my advice to all the women in the room is, do not, and it takes a tough mind to say that, to believe in that, don't let flippant comments distract you. You asked me how I dealt with it. I frankly ignored those comments because they're not worth spending your energy on. They're absolutely not worth, you know, fretting about. If there is, and I sit on boards where there are, unfortunately, whistleblower complaints of, you know, behavior in the workplace, which is not becoming of the workplace, those have to be dealt with, you know, with seriousness, with, you know, with promptness and with decisiveness. So I think we are all part of an ecosystem where all of us have a role to play in that ecosystem. People who are in positions of power and authority have to learn to use that power and authority to ensure that it is an equitable workplace, that it is an equitable academic place, that it is an equitable world that we are striving for. It's not going to happen in a hurry. We see, you know, we see news every day about the way, you know, women are treated, minorities are treated, and we don't have to stand for any of those. So I would say, personally, whatever you can do, all of us should do. If you're a woman, hold your own. Don't be bullied. Don't, you know, I mean, as I said, I simply ignored. However, if there is somebody that is stepping, you know, beyond a certain limit, then it takes a lot of courage, but do have the courage to speak up. You know, certainly in the corporate world now, there are good systems, practices, posh committees, etc., and the good companies take those on very seriously. But my message is really, if anything you would take away, is to the men in this room, in addition to the women in this room, you have to learn to respect and treat everybody, including, you know, people of other genders, you know, with generosity, with empathy, with understanding, and with respect.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a satisfactory answer. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I have to be cognizant of time, and I think there's another wonderful speaker waiting to take over the session after this, so we have to be respectful to his time and our time as well. I think this has been a wonderful, wonderful session. I think that last answer kind of sums it up. Vinita Bali, in my mind and in my words, is what she is because of the sum of her experiences. And I think what she wanted to convey to all of you today, if I were to sum up in one sentence, is that your life is the sum of all your experiences. It's in your hands, it's your choices, and therefore take those choices, make those decisions. There is no hard and fast rule, there is no rule book, there's no great magical wand that will tell you do this and this will happen. You will make mistakes, but learn from those mistakes. There will be failures, take that as a learning, don't take that as something that puts you down. You will face obstacles, but the whole idea is to move ahead. And most importantly, I think what Vinita has left out is that in your life, do something that you enjoy doing. Because if you don't enjoy doing what you're doing, you'll never be successful. And success is in your hands. And most importantly, while you're at work and pursuing a career, build other interests. Become an all-round personality, because remember that you will have a second innings, and that's the time when that comes in great hand. Vinita is already in that. I'm moving towards that, and I think we become busier in our second innings than we were in our first innings. So ensure that.
I just want to add one other thing, just as a last thought. Somebody asked Amelia Earhart why she loves to fly. And, her answer has been so inspiring for me. And she said that when you're 30,000 feet up there, what you see are horizons, not boundaries.
I think that sums it up. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for Vinita Bali and all our 8 panelists. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And all the best to all of you. Hope to see some of you sitting on this chair some years from now. Good evening. Thank you, Vinita.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now may I request Mr. Sumit Ray to present a memento to Ms. Vinita Bali. Thank you, sir. I request Mr. Amitabh Datta, former President, CMA, to present a memento to Mr. Sumit Ray for chairing the session. Thank you, sir.